Serenity, movie review. So this is a review of the 2005 movie, not the recent 2019 movie, which I haven't seen. But yeah, if you didn't already know, Serenity 2005 is a movie that came out that was a sequel to a television show called Firefly. Now, Firefly, you probably already know this if you're any sort of geek, but Firefly was a science fiction show that got released, I don't remember, sometime in the early 2000s. Had a huge cult following, but then got canceled for one reason or another, and there was huge fan outrage about this because fans really loved this show. I missed all this. I was over in Japan when all of this was happening. So I heard about this after the fact. When I was visiting home, one of my friends who was a big science fiction geek said, "Oh, you've got to see this show. It's so awesome." And he showed me the pilot for it. It's one of these things where the pilot is like a 2-hour movie. And then he told me how awful it was that the show had gotten canceled. But he still had the DVD box set of the first season, such as it was. And I do have to admit that the pilot did seem pretty engaging. This was before the age of serialized television. So I believe it was still episodic, which is one of the reasons maybe I didn't continue with it, is because there was no, yeah, you know, like nowadays you see the first episode of something and it completely hooks you in and you've got to see the next episode to see where the story is going. This wasn't like that. I saw the first episode, it was good. I didn't go on to see the next few episodes. I have, to be fair to myself, I have totally put in my time as a geek over the years. I was a huge Star Trek geek when I was in high school. I watched so many hours of Star Trek. So I've put in my time with watching televised science fiction series, and I didn't really continue with this one for whatever reason, although what little bit of it I saw did look interesting. Then, when I found out they had made a movie of this, and when the movie was in my local DVD rental store, I thought, yeah, why not check out the movie? I mean, sure, I didn't stick through the whole TV series, but I mean, movies are always made for people who are casual fans anyways, right? I mean, again, to return to Star Trek, loads of people who never saw any of the Star Trek TV series will show up for the movie because movies tend to be larger cinematic events. All that being said, take my review with a grain of salt because I'm somebody who knows very little about the TV show. And in fact, by the time I got around to renting this movie, I'd even sort of forgotten some of the things from the pilot in terms of establishing who these characters were. But then once the movie started up, it did jog my memory a little bit. So the entire show, or the movie, or I guess the premise of this series, at least as it seems to me, is heavily influenced by Star Wars, which I guess a lot of science fiction is in the post-Star Wars era. But specifically, the captain of this show seems to be a dead ringer for Han Solo. Everything from the dry sense of humor to the scoundrel with a heart of gold type character, to a willingness to fight dirty and to shoot first. Even his facial expressions seem to me like he's kind of copying Harrison Ford's facial expressions. And actually, I don't really get any bonus points for noticing this because even on the DVD extras to this movie, the cast and crew are talking about how much that character is reminiscent of Han Solo. Also, more comparisons to Star Wars. A lot of the planets that the crew lands on are kind of sandy desert planets, you know, like Tatooine. I guess that Tatooine itself was, people argue that was ripping off the Dune series or the Dune books. But anyways, there's a bar full of scoundrels, which of course, Mos Eisley. And then there's this concept, which I believe is called the concept of a used future in science fiction circles. I'm not sure if the Star Wars was the first to do this, probably not. But just the idea that you have all this futuristic tech, but it's not shiny and polished and new. It's a little bit kind of beat up and scruffy looking. And that is totally going on here, which again, obviously seems to come from the original Star Wars. But, you know, no criticism for that. The art is all about imitation and kind of finding something that has worked in the past and doing something interesting with it in the future. Okay. As a movie, I thought this was just so. And it feels like a movie that was made out of a TV show, meaning it feels like it's just another 2 hours of the TV show. There's no real high stakes that you feel like you should have in a movie. Or maybe that's just me. Maybe fans of the TV show were perfectly happy with this. But I was hoping for more of a cinematic experience. There was not a high budget for this movie. And it's a credit to the director that he did what he could with his low budget, but you can totally feel that there was not a high budget. Again, it feels more like a TV show than a big budget movie. The script, to be fair, does try its best to come up with some things that will really shock the fans. And I guess spoilers here, although what's the point? If this is a very old movie and you've probably already seen it before. Some of the character relationships do develop themselves, and a few of the characters actually die off, which is kind of shocking, although at this point, I mean, what's the point, right? I mean, if this was an ongoing series and they killed a character off, you'd be like, oh no, they killed off my favorite character. Now I'm not going to be able to see them in the future episodes. And, you know, it would have more weight. But here, this was kind of the last thing they did with the character. So you're like, okay, well, they killed off that character, but what's the point anyways? Because this is the end of the line for that character regardless. I mean, what's the difference? The action scenes are half decent. Obviously, again, they're working on a small budget here. So there's not like a lot of quick cuts like there would be in a Hollywood big budget. There's no amped up dramatic music to heighten the tension or amazing special effects or any of the things that, you know, you would feel like you would have with a big budget summer blockbuster. Although it's obvious that a bit more time and a few more stuntmen went into the action sequence than would have been true in just a regular TV episode. So all in all, well, don't take my opinion for it, huh? I'm somebody who's not familiar with the TV show, so what do I know? Listen to the opinion of somebody who's watched the TV show. I found it moderately entertaining, for whatever that's worth.